what I tell people is, have 18 to 24 months worth of capital in your savings account that you can use to keep paying your mortgage or your rent and your car payments and whatever else you have. Don't go into this with 3 months of money, because you will run out really quickly, because you're not bringing any in. And that line drops fast when there's nothing coming in.
So welcome to another episode of Brews and BizDev. This time our illustrious guest is Mr. Chris Hundley. And I'm not even going to throw a company name in there because I know you're kind of in between some things and making some secret stuff happen. But why don't you just go ahead, and Chris, and if you would just kind of introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners, who are you, whatever your elevator pitch is at this moment, go ahead and throw that out there.
Sure. So I have a background in computer science and technology. I've been a software engineer by trade most of my career. And years ago, I moved more into engineering leadership. I served as a VP of engineering, or a CTO, at a couple of different Seattle startups. And through that, I made connections to some of the local VCs here in Seattle. And once the last startup sort of ended, I wanted to kind of go out and do my own thing. I had done this back in college. I'd actually started a startup back in college, and my whole career goal was to get back to the point where I could launch another startup. And so after I worked at a place called Madrona here in Seattle, which is one of our VC firms, I spent about 9 months just kind of exploring different ideas, different technology, different product ideas, to narrow into something that I could actually focus my energy on. And my criteria was pretty specific. I was looking for something that I could do kind of on my own, something I could prove out before I would raise any capital. And I landed on an idea, and that ended up being Siftrock. And so built Siftrock and ran that company by myself for about 2 years. Then I had a co-founder join. And then from there, we accelerated like crazy and built a real business out of it. And then after two more years with him helping out, we got acquired by Drift, which is a Boston marketing software startup.
Nice, cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who might be viewing this, are probably, or if they're not familiar with Drift, they'll get familiar pretty quickly. They're a fairly large player out there, kind of coined, at least if you listen to Dave, certainly, kind of coined conversational marketing as a category to live inside of. Which is great marketing for us marketers, right? If you can invent a category and then just position yourself, then you end up where Drift has managed to put themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Siftrock, just quickly, what Siftrock was on its own?
So Siftrock was a product. It was a really simple concept. If you've done any marketing automation, and most companies have, especially email marketing, you're blasting out, giant lists of potential, prospects or customers. And what I discovered was that most companies either didn't know or didn't care what was happening to the replies that would come back from those campaigns. And so they'd send out a big webinar invite to, say, 200,000 people. And some percentage of those people would actually respond with maybe a question like, hey, I can't make the webinar, but can you provide a recording? Well, of course, with the sheer volume of the replies that would come back, because you'd also get all the out of office, left company, all the emails, the automated emails that people set their inboxes to, it was pretty hard to find those human replies. And so what I built was a product that, using some machine learning and AI, would determine the category of emails that were coming back. And then on the human email, specifically looking for intent. What is this human actually asking? Is it a question that we can that we can figure out? And so phase one of the company was kind of just dealing with the sheer volume of replies and figuring out what we could do with them. What are all the things we could do with them? So we would do things like, if we got a reply where somebody said, this person no longer works at the company, please contact this person in the future, we would automatically update those contact records in, say, Marketo or HubSpot or whatever marketing automation tool the customer was using. So now they would have the old contact get invalidated, and they'd have a new contact that they could now use to market to, which is pretty valuable if you've been marketing to a company for a long time, to know that the person left and that there's a new person to talk to. And where that really shined also was in customer marketing. And so as a SaaS business, when your customer who bought your product leaves the company, that's a pretty critical moment, because when your renewal comes around, you need to know that that person's gone and that there's a new person, because you're at risk of losing that customer if you don't establish a new relationship. And then phase two of the company was where we really started diving into intent on the human emails. So what is this person actually asking, and is there any way we could automate some of the responses, right? So if you're just monitoring a standard inbox that a company, say, posts on their website, you're gonna get things like, how much does this cost, right? And it's pretty easy to create an automated response to that. And that's where Drift really started getting interested in what Siftrock was doing, because Drift was doing conversational marketing via chat, via their chat widget that goes on your website. And what we were doing was kind of, you could call it conversational marketing through email, where we were automating some of the conversation. We could actually respond directly to a question. We could send out a survey question and then look at the responses and create reports based on that, and not have to have it all be this manual work where somebody's having to read those emails one at a time.
Right.
And so that's where they saw an opportunity to, sort of flesh out themselves as more of a platform around conversational marketing via being, instead of just being specifically focused on chat. Mm-hmm. So the chat and email marriage is really what made the deal appetizing for both of us. I mean, we were tiny and they were huge, and so for us it was all, we get to go work with this great company that's already big and has a lot of money raised and all that. And then for them, they got sort of this package set of customers and value and something they could add on to their product suite pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I'll interject here. Normally I do this closer to the beginning, and you're drinking straight from the bottle there, which I appreciate. But here on BizDev, part of our customary routine here is the guest gets to pick whatever beer we're doing. Now, normally we've done a lot of these in the local area. Of course, it's all via Zoom anyway, right, because of our current conditions these days. And so, as I've already filled you in, we were unable to get our hands on the beer that you're going to be drinking. So I'm sticking with my my backup. This is Big Ditch Hayburner. Local Buffalo thing as well, one of the more prominent local Buffalo beers. So tell us, what are you drinking and why you picked that as the feature?
So I've got a beer by a local brewer called Black Raven. The specific beer is called Trickster. It's a pretty hoppy IPA. They're out here in Redmond, so probably about 2 miles from my house. They've been around for a long time. They've won a lot of awards, and so we're able to go down and just buy directly from them. But they're also in pretty much every store out here now too. So. Okay,
cool. Yeah. Proximity counts. That makes it helpful. All right, excellent. So I know that now I'm not going to even bother getting into it because I've been told that what you've got going on currently is a bit of a secret project that I see on LinkedIn. It's like details coming soon, working on something or whatever the headline is. So is there anything you can tell us? Because I mean, you've bootstrapped one startup, and I want to get into the good parts, the bad parts of bootstrapping as an approach. And sounds like you're into something else new right now. So is there anything that you do want to share or want to put out there about what you're working on, or we can just shut the secret down and I can move to the next conversation?
It's funny that's kind of a typical headline to put on when you're in a semi-retired state, which I, after working the number of hours for the number of years that I did without a break, this has been just a really nice break. But I am working on something, and what I can tell you is it's not some sort of revolution, because that's not really where I like to live. I like to live kind of, my wife calls it the nooks and crannies. She's like, you find these little spots where there's like this required piece of software that everybody kind of needs, but nobody really wants to build, and then you go build it. Mm-hmm. And where my focus is now, honestly, is I'm working on a theory that most SaaS products over time get pretty bloated due to a variety of factors. Most critically, and this is just for very specific products, because some products actually need a lot of capabilities and features, but I think some products end up with a lot of bells and whistles because there's this sort of cycle in SaaS, and especially in venture-backed companies, where you raise capital, you build a product, you get customers, and then the challenge starts to become, where are you going to get more revenue? How are you going to drive more revenue? And you get that from a couple of places, primarily new customers, right? But the other place that you can drive more revenue from is by increasing the price on the customers you already have. And how do you increase price? Well, in theory, you increase value. And sometimes, a lot of times actually, if you really do analysis on products, that value is somewhat tenuous, right? It's a lot of, the 80-20 rule where, 80% of the customers only use 20% of the features, right? I'm working on a theory that if you build just that 20% of features that customers actually use and provide software at a radically reduced price, because you're only going to provide your whole thesis is that you're only going to provide that stuff, you're not going to live out on those edges, that you can get away with pricing things at 20 to 30% of what other products are priced at. And so what I'm doing is looking at the really simple type products. So for example, I'll just give you one example. Something that like monitors whether a server is up or down, right? So there's lots of products that do that. They're all over the place. There's probably 25 competitors. It's not a market I would want to enter just because of the competition and the foothold that's there. But when you look at all those products and you look at their prices, you realize pretty quickly that the price doesn't seem to align with what the product does or what the core use of the product is. And so what I'm really interested in is looking at how do we trim off that stuff that's not only is it hard to build, it's hard to support, it's hard to maintain, it's over complex. What if we cut all that out and we had an agreement with our customers that we're going to leave all that out, and no matter how much you want it, we're not going to build it. And if you really need it, then there's a bunch of people that are providing. There's a bunch of other companies you can go to. Our theory is that we can get a lot of that bottom end of the market if we just build the most simple product for the cheapest possible price. Kind of think of it like cloud computing, but for SaaS, right? AWS came along and they just wiped out most of the like rack-based, server providers, and they just said this stuff is only pennies if you do it as a commodity. And so that's the theory. It's something that I'm playing with in terms of some ideas about what products that we would build in that space, and then testing it with a few different folks that I know would get value out of it to see, is it enough? Would you buy a product if it was, instead of paying $40 a month, it was $8 a month, and it only gives you those very specific things that you actually need to solve your problem. And we're not going to add on to it. We're going to be bootstrapped, so we have no reason. We're not going to raise capital, and we really have no huge motivation to raise the price other than just inflation or whatever over time. But really, you're not going to see a product that goes from $8 to $15 to $25 to $50. And what's really neat is you can actually go to some of these companies and go to their pricing page, and then use the internet time machine and go back and look at their pricing page over the last decade. And you can see it happening, right? You see this product that was $10, 6 months later it was $15, and they're always shipping new stuff. And then when you look over time, all of a sudden you arrive at a place where it's $99 a month, something that started at $10 a month. So that's my long-winded way of saying we're gonna try to stay at that $10 a month and see if that works as an idea. It may not. It may just have to go away, but I think it's worth a shot just to see if there's a bottom end of the market that makes sense to just keep it that low price.
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool idea. Do you think that, and maybe I'm thinking of the wrong kinds of SaaS products, but certainly in MarTech and all these different areas where there's just so many different things, and even if you get loaded products, you still often have to bring in something to supplement it. So you have to work with all these integrations. And like in my brain, and I'm not the tech person in this conversation, let's just be clear. Whenever someone narrows in into one, we're going to do this, we're not going to do anything else, what my brain in the back starts going like, oh man, so I'm going to have to that's going to have to work with X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to have to manage the integration of that. Or are you thinking of different kinds of products that are more standalone? These services and software is more standalone, so you do not have to integrate them. Because for me, the integrating versus I've been pitched, well, we have it all in one place. Right. So yeah, we've got this. It'll tell you if the server's down. It'll tell you this. It'll tell you that. It's a convenience pitch because you do not then have to interact with many different providers if there's a problem. So what would you? What do you think combats the convenience all in one place? You don't have to deal with integrations and really patching together a system.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think primarily the first decision has to be, is this product simple enough and standalone enough to make sense in this world, right? So I would never build something that competes with, say, Marketo or HubSpot as a marketing automation tool, because not only are those products super deep and super rich, but most of that richness is actually used and appreciated by the folks that use those products. And so I think that, but even then, if you buy Marketo and you buy Salesforce, you're still buying lots of other third parties, and you're using tools like Zapier to integrate things or connect things together. And so no matter how all-in-one or all-encompassing a suite claims to be, most marketing teams are leveraging dozens or more technologies to achieve their goals. And so I think I'm going to stay away from marketing technology. and it's going to be more around. I just asked myself, so when I started Siftrock, I needed some of these baseline capabilities, right? So I had some servers out in production, and I had some customers, and I said, well, I need to know if my servers are up. That's it. I just need to know if the servers are running. I need to know if my website is live, et cetera, et cetera. And try as I might, I couldn't find a robust, decent product that could do that for less than, say, $40 or $50 a month. And I said, if I just spent a couple of weeks, I could probably build something that does the baseline that I would need, and then I won't have to pay for this stuff. And then I thought, there's probably a lot of people that are launching new companies or new startups. And so this would be products that are focused on really small teams, really small organizations. I don't think that you can approach a large company with something like this and say, hey, it just does this one thing, because they're already on to who knows what,
Yeah.
And so this would be specifically for, those entrepreneurs or those people that are like, I've got a website and I've got a couple of servers out in production, and I just need to know if they're up and running and they need to be paged if they're not. And here's a product that's only, $8 or $9 a month instead of, $80 a month or whatever the pingdoms of the world are costing. And honestly, like the foundational concept is that our entire philosophy has to be lived and breathed at that 80-20 level. Whether that comes to the website itself, writing blog posts, it's like, we're not going to write blog posts on our website. We don't need them. There's no value to a company that's doing things this way to having a blog, because the products are so drop dead simple and the concept is simple. You either get it or you don't. And frankly, if there's a customer that is just like, this is great, but I really need X, Y, or Z, like I said, we're just going to move them on to that. We're going to go, hey, go talk to these guys. They have a great product and it does everything you want. It's a little more expensive, but if that's what you need, then go buy it. It's the theory that I want to test. I want to see if there's, and I've talked to a few people locally that I know, have launched a few startups on their own. And I've asked them, like, what did you do when you started your startup to deal with these specific issues? And a couple in particular were like, well, I just rolled my own. I just spent a weekend cobbling together some scripts, some shell scripts that I could put on a server that would notify me. And I said, why didn't you just buy X, Y, or Z? And they're like, well, I'm not spending that kind of money. And I said, what if it was only this much? And they were like, that might stop me from spending my weekend building my own thing. If it was that cheap, that could be a line where I would say, it's just easier to buy this thing and like have it monitor my services. Yeah. So to me, that's like where the real golden conversations happen, is when somebody's like, yeah, actually, now, of course, somebody saying that is different than actually selling. Like selling software is not easy. And people will tell you all day long, man, if you build that, I would definitely buy it. And then after you build it, you find a lot of people that go, I don't know. And
right.
So when it's
time to write a check about it, yeah,
exactly. So
so
we'll see. I mean,
every sector, every kind of business I've ever been in, people have the greatest ideas and they sign up a whole lot verbally. Like, oh, I would definitely do that. Video companies, marketing, right? Oh, if you sold that kind of package, that's perfect for me. And then you return and you're like, oh yeah, not so much. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're pointing that right into that area of the startup, the person who your competition is DIY.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
They're balancing between small expense and just handle it yourself, and can you get the expense down and the clear-cut value there so that people choose to do that instead of, in your example, build it in a weekend or whatever the case is.
Yeah. And we're going to launch eventually with the first. It's going to eventually be multiple products that you can just buy one, buy two, buy three. It's going to be just a deal where you can add on over time. Mm-hmm. But where we're going to launch is at a product that we know is so simple that it shouldn't actually cost money. But the market leader in this category, and I can't talk about it quite yet, but the market leader in this category is anywhere from $50 to $100 a month for their product, and we're just going to have that be our flagship free product, like free forever. Like you can come in, sign up for this thing and have it for free, and that'll be our way of kind of generating interest in the rest of the products that we're building, because I think everybody needs this one specific product. It's so cheap to build and manage that I just can't imagine charging any more than like $5 a month. But in this case, we'll just go free, and we'll see if that drives the people in and drives the interest in sort of jumping on board with this concept.
Yeah, cool. Well, I look forward to seeing what it is as it all emerges, and a little more openly. And I know Matt's really excited too, because even though he wanted to jump off, he's like, I'm psyched for this conversation. So. So let's talk about, this is, we've got a theme here, general biz dev, and obviously we are talking about developing a new business now, but as you already outlined, you built something up, you had an idea, you built something out, you took on a partner, right? You iterated through some different phases, uh, bootstrapping it yourself, right? So as far as I understand, there's no funding, there's no VC, there's no equity, there's nothing coming in. There's whatever money you have to pour into it and time you have to pour into it, and same with your partner. And then, developing out, I know Matt from being on whatever it was, inside sales team or something, and so it's like working those kinds of angles. And that took did you say 4 years basically?
Yeah, yeah.
For you, as someone who's been through the paces and all the ups and downs that come, and I'm sure some moments that are like, what are we even doing? And then it works, right? You integrate with someone, you get bought, and you get merged, and then you reposition yourself sometime later for a brief semi-retirement and start creating something new. So having lived what a lot of people are sold as, like, oh, that's the dream. You strap it up, you get in there, and then you have the opportunity. Here's where I'll start, I guess. What's the absolute worst part of having gone through the journey that way? Like the thing that's, if you have a regret, like, oh, I wish that I would have done this thing differently because it might have turned better, or because I lost sleep for like 6 months straight. Like, what was the thing, the hardest part, the thing that had you question the most, the journey you were on that you had to overcome?
Let's see. Well, I would say probably the anxiety and stress levels I didn't manage as effectively as I could have. And a lot of it was because I was alone. And a lot of it was because, you know, coming home, my wife was always a cheerleader, and I couldn't really, if I had the worst day of all time, I couldn't really talk about it, because the reality was, you know, here I was bootstrapping this company, so I was spending lots of money, and I wasn't making any money for quite a while, and she was working full time, bringing money in. And so the last thing that I could do is come home after a really rough day and just be like, I just don't think this is going to work, you know, like that kind of. And so I regret not leaning more on like more of the community, more of the people that I know. I've got a couple of advisors that I would meet with occasionally, and they would help, you know, sort of keep me in the game. But there were some real low points where, you know, I wouldn't sleep for 3 or 4 days with a level of anxiety and stress, because you're watching you know, you have to save money over time. I actually did a lecture over at UW about bootstrapping and some of the things to prepare you for bootstrapping. And what I tell people is, you know, have 18 to 24 months worth of capital in your savings account that you can use to keep paying your mortgage or your rent and your car payments and whatever else you have. Don't go into this with 3 months of money, because you will run out really quickly, because you're not bringing any in. And that line drops fast when there's nothing coming in. And so, yeah, I had saved up enough, you know, money over time and other jobs that I had to be able to do this and do it for a long time without a paycheck. But that still doesn't reduce the stress as much as you think. So, and also I think that I probably didn't get help fast enough. You know, I sort of got to a point where I was so overwhelmed with, I built it up to the point where I think I had 16 or 17 paying customers. And these were big enterprises. It was, you know, Glassdoor and Citrix and companies like that, who had no idea that it was a one-man operation, right? The part of bootstrapping and part of being small is you kind of have to puff your chest up a little bit and behave as if you're like a larger company. Otherwise, they'll never buy from you, right? You're just too small.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot on the line there. And so once you've got that many customers, I'm building the product, I'm building the website, I'm writing blog posts, I'm doing all the finances and accounting, I'm paying the taxes, you know, all of those things came together. And then once I had customers, I realized that the renewal game is actually rough, right? You have to like get ready for that annual renewal. You can't just be guaranteed that money's coming in. So now not only am I trying to close new business, but I'm also dealing with renewals. And there was a point where I said, I don't, there's no more minutes in the day that I can spend on this. I'm exhausted. And I probably should have, I didn't really seek out a lot of help. I wasn't looking for somebody to come in. It just was very fortunate that I had a relationship with Adam Schoenfeld, who ended up coming in as my co-founder. He was serving as an advisor for me for almost a year before he came in. And when he was ready to leave his gig and start something new, he had decided that Siftrock would be his best bet for helping build a startup kind of from the ground up. So I got really lucky with the timing there, because when he came in, we went from 16 or 17 customers and around 120K in revenue to in only 18 months, I think we passed 140 customers, something like that, and around 1.2 million in revenue. So 10x the value of the company in 18 months. And he came in, and we also brought in just an extremely good sales associate that was able to handle all the deals while Adam did all the marketing, and then I still handled building the product. And eventually we grew to 5 people before the acquisition.
Nice. Okay. So building, so support is key, which we hear a lot, and I think is valuable saying over and over and over again, because whether it's startup or something that's designed to scale, or it's a business, right? Just a small business that people are starting, that stress, insane, literally. Insane levels of stress, and like you pointed to wonderfully, loneliness. Even if you have supportive people around you, you can't share it all, right? There's no way you can let that go, and then the wife, the kids, whoever it might be, even small investors. And so the managing mental well-being being very important. What would you say? I'm curious, because I have a year and a half saved, year and a half to 2 years of income saved. I'm going to say it's a fairly uncommon circumstance, in the world. And I'm going to say it's getting more uncommon with every passing day at this point. So for someone who doesn't have that opportunity, right? Someone like I don't have that much saved, even in 3 months, maybe I got 3 months, maybe 6 if things go well, and I don't spend as much as I normally do. But if someone doesn't have that much money, is there another way to get set up to try to move forward, instead of just, okay, forget it, I have to wait until I have a year and a half of expenses? Yeah. What would you say if you're not going to have that built up, then what's the best second bet?
Well, obviously, what most people do in that situation is they continue working a full-time gig while they're working on their idea, which is completely fine. I think it's a viable path. It's probably the most common path for most people. They've got a day job, they've got this idea, they want to work on it in their free time. I think, and I did talk about this a little bit in my bootstrapping lecture, where I said, I think the difficult decision in that world is, when do you actually convert from your existing job to your new thing? Because it can take a long time to build up a business. It can take a while, and really depending on the type of business. Like software is a lot different than if you say had a little widget that you invented and you're trying to get a patent and you're trying to get it produced. I mean, that's really what you see on Shark Tank a lot, is like somebody's got this little thing that they've developed that's a product that needs to be manufactured. And so the capital requirements there are a heck of a lot different. And I mean, even I looked at a lot of different ideas in the low energy Bluetooth device space, like the wearables space. Mm-hmm. And I realized when I started doing my research that I would have to order like 10,000 units of something from China to even like have prototypes built. And like the cost of all that it just wasn't going to happen. So I would say, like, you can build up, working your current gig. I would say have a plan, like really be careful about knowing exactly what your exit point is from your existing job. When are you going to go full time? Because at some point you do have to dedicate full time. It's really hard to build a business if you're, imagine having customers and you're working like a day job and somebody's calling you to get something resolved and you can't pick up the phone because you're in a meeting at your actual job. Stuff like that is rough, right? So the other thing I would say is, there are a lot of companies out there that actually support this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. They like to build like a coalition within the company of people that want to launch their own companies. So one thing you can do is maybe position yourself, if possible, in a company that actually fully understands and gets that your goal in life and your goal for your career is to go build your own company. And they're willing to be a little flexible on that. If you say, hey, I might have to go to deal with a thing, is that going to be okay? There's a lot of companies that are like, yeah, we want you to go succeed at building your own thing as long as you're getting your job done here. Because the other thing is, keeping it a secret is really hard, right? If you're at a job and then stuff's going on, it's really hard to not talk about it or to have them not find out about it. So transparency is pretty important. So I would say, make sure you're at a place that actually supports that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're at a place where whatever you're building isn't going to just be owned by the company you work at, because that can also happen, right? If you haven't signed an inventions clause or something, especially if you're at a software company. And also make sure you're not at a company that's competing in the same space that you want to build a product in. You know, I couldn't work at Marketo and build Siftrock. That would be a conflict of interest, and they would probably just end up owning Siftrock, right? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very doable, I think, and a lot of people do it that way. I'm just, you know, from my perspective, this particular project just required, because I was doing it by myself, so much energy and time. I think the other thing is, if you had, say, 3 people that got together as co-founders and said, we're going to build this thing, and we're going to split our time, and then it's probably a lot more easy to keep, you know, hours at a regular job, because you've got a lot more support. There's 2 other people that can cover for you. You can sort of coordinate your vacations and things like that. So, so I would say that's probably a better option. In this case, I just, you know, I really had this desire to kind of go on my own and do it. I'm kind of a control freak, so and I wanted to prove it could be done, right? I just wanted to show that you can go by yourself and start a startup and make it work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, good job, because it did. You know, it worked out, and that's a great segue, because we're talking then team, right? So one angle could be, you come at it, you have the team to start. Of course, startup, you know, the teams don't always end up being the same teams as you go through, because then you're growing in different phases. But whether or not you're starting with team or you've been in it for a while, like you mentioned, you bring in the other co-founder after about a year or so, who also has some pretty good insight into the business because they've been an advisor. And from what you just described, that's the marketing guy, right? You're the tech guy, so you started on your own, you built the thing, and then here comes marketing and other things, I'm sure, because everyone's doing a little bit of everything when you're at a certain size. But then here comes marketing, and you hire the sales. And then so you've got your kind of sections worked out. And I would assume strengths, right? I assume that your partner had a background, and, you know, that's where he was coming from. Then you bring in someone who's actually good at sales. So besides the obvious kind of like, oh, find people who are great at their jobs, you know, and build the team of every component you need, like, that's great on paper, and then real life has something else to say about that sometimes. Do you have any specific, you know, advice for people on putting together the right kind of team to get your, you know, company into that next space? Like, what should people be looking for? Or maybe like, look out for this because everyone says this kind of stuff, and avoid it like the plague. Like, what's the hot tip for building a team?
I think that this probably is true for all companies, and that is that the fewer people you have, the higher caliber those people need to be, right? You need, you know, if you're going to have a 3-person team, then you all need to be kind of 1%ers in terms of your capabilities, right? You need to have extreme amounts of output. You need to be super efficient. You really need to be aligned, like, you know, personality, you know, and alignment, and going in one direction, having a shared vision. That's all really, really critical. The smaller you are, the bigger you get. Obviously, when companies pass, you know, 50 employees, they'll make some bad hires and have to deal with it, et cetera, et cetera. And then you need an HR team and all that. When you're this small, you have to be able to look across the table at the person that's working with you and truly believe that they're just as in it as you are, that they're just as committed, that their output is equaling or better than yours. And you challenge each other to keep going. You know, you challenge each other to increase. And then when you make that first hire, like when we made our first sales hire, you know, she had to be a 1%er. She had to be the best. And see, he brought in his best sales rep from a previous company that he founded. And, you know, she was the cream of the crop, and that reflected. And then when we went to hire for customer success, we needed a 1%er. And when I hired my first engineer to come help, he needed to be a 1%er like that. And I don't know where that lets up, but that's pretty critical. You can't hire somebody that's kind of just casually, well, this will be fun. I'll be in an early stage startup, and oh, look, it's 5 o'clock. I got to get going. I got some things to do. And it's like, wait a minute, we got 3 more hours here. We gotta get stuff done. So I don't think you should have to kill yourself to do a startup. You shouldn't be working yourself to death. But yeah, having that same level of commitment, having that shared vision and alignment, the smaller you get, the more important all those things become, and the better better quality the people need to be.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Well said. Well, I think I don't really have anything else, so I think I'm going to let you carry on with your. Oh wait, what time is it? It's actually it's not even quite afternoon into your.
That's right.
I just realized, different time zone. You got a few more hours of your day left. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on and spending the time with us because, you know, input and advice from people who have actually can speak from inside of having built something I think is invaluable, and especially when it's pragmatic and useful and direct and like, here's what happened to me versus some kind of, 10 rules for a startup kind of stuff. So I appreciate you coming on, taking the questions. Someday I'm going to get my hands on that beer and then we'll ping you back and say, all right,
Let's do
cool.
it.
It
Yeah,
worked.
when we launch the next one, I'll send you out some beer, and then we'll do a launch party. And
Nice. Perfect. Yeah, we're game. We're game. Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for coming out, man. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you.